purpose of today's meeting. So, so Jim, could describe basically what the endowment is, what it was, and what's it intended for, and we just so everybody understands what's out there. But Pastor, I say maybe you could start with the prayer.
I just wanted to preface before we begin with prayer that this is a joyous thing that we are doing at Zion, that we're considering ministries and missions that we can support. As a pastor, I would not like to see this be divisive in our congregation, where we have conversations where over funds we are separating ourselves. And as we heard in today's message too, that we need to reconcile and the blessings that we have received to share that with others. And so I ask that we have our minds and everything just opened up to welcome any sort of conversation and thoughts, but we also need to make sure our household is together. And so I encourage clear conversation and clarity, and I know Jim will do that as well, but also from members as well, to express your concerns. And I think that's very important as we move forward in Jesus for supporting missions. So I just wanted to preface that. And as your pastor, I am available to talk with you anytime as we continue in helping and supporting this ministry. So let us pray. Lord God, Heavenly Father, through whom all blessings flow, we thank you for this day, for this time together, for putting together this conversation for clarity. Lord, as you have put into our hearts through your Spirit to share what blessings we have with others, Lord, may you be a part of our conversations and our thoughts, and may your Spirit continue to lead us as we make sure our household is together. And may you increase our joyfulness as we give to others what we have received. Lord, again, we lift up this meeting into your mighty hands. All this we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Excellent. Thank you, Pastor. So, Jim, are you okay to kind of go through the slides that you presented? Thanks, Jim. Jim's the chairman of the endowment committee, and with finances. If you're like me, a lot of it's what's it all about. And Jim will straighten us out and just kind of talk a little bit about the endowment. And thank you.
Well, first, thanks for letting me do this, because I think it's been long overdue, partially due to me and partially due to just there's passing of this along from year to year. So one thing I'm going to start out, because some of you have probably not had a chance to look at the presentation that was sent out, about a little bit about history. And again, I think a lot of the people in here may know because they've been here a long time, but some may not, and hopefully we can educate the rest of the congregation about it. Definitely the sermon today I thought was quite literal and figuratively interesting, given the fact that I have a wrestler as a son, and some of what we're going to discuss today is what we're wrestling with in our congregation, right? And we can disagree about things, but we do need to come to consensus and understand we have different points of view. There's different things we need to take into consideration, and how we give to others while we worry about also the longevity and the future of our church here at Zion. So those things need to be balanced. And I think that's important to keep in mind when you think about everything here, okay? Thank you. So why are we here? There's a couple of reasons. One was the voters meeting last time, but in my opinion, there hasn't been really a formal committee for the last 5 years, and that was due to COVID, resignation of Pastor Gruey. We had some operating budget type issues where, to be perfectly honest, I took it upon myself, right or wrong, to kind of constrict what we were giving because I was concerned about our church here, okay? The second thing is we need some more formal processes for utilization of the funds, which came up at the voters meeting, which is what we're here to discuss. And we definitely want to solicit input here. I have some suggestions you'll see later in the presentation, but that is definitely a congregation discussion. That is not a voters meeting only. That is not an endowment committee meeting. That is something that we should all be on the same page with, within reason, okay? And to have a deeper understanding and educate everyone about what is the endowment chair, committee, total as a whole, because it is different than it was pre-2019. It's very different, okay? So, history. Our church was blessed with a monetary gift from a member about 25 years ago now. It was approximately $2.2 million. The current value of all of our assets is about 2.85. It includes the parsonage, the 285 number. No, it's that, no. It'll be up. I have all the finances up here, so we'll see that, Joan. So the funds have been utilized over the last 25 years, three major categories. One is to fund capital projects in the church, including an allocation that we have for property maintenance annually, because there is maintenance that needs to happen around here. Was to purchase the parsonage, and that was to, attract or allow pastors to have a way to live in New Jersey if they're not from here. It's an expensive place to live, as everybody knows, right? So I think that was our last kind of wrestling decision that happened with respect to endowment. And then to donate to worthy missions and outreach, and they're on the local, regional, national, and international level, right? And I'll touch on each of these things later. In 2018 is when Dave Antolik passed along the chairperson responsibility from himself to me. I was on the committee for a few years before that. And then that's pretty much the history. It goes back prior. I think there's another line there that's just being cut off by the slide. So we have people in our congregation right now and voting members here that were on this committee and were chair people in the past. So there's some understanding of what's been done historically. Okay, so financial portfolio. In 2019, Pastor Gruey and I decided to consolidate a few things into what we would call the endowment scope. And we put the portfolio together, which is our traditional endowment fund from the gift we received. It was also what we had as our vision fund, which was funded for a number of ways, including some donations. Some was money that was set aside because we were not having to compensate some pastors for medical coverage at the time based on their spouse having medical coverage. There was some other funds put there. And then we also received a one-time gift from Grace Lutheran as they shut their doors in 2019 of approximately $140,000. Okay? The last one is a scholarship account that resides in an interest-bearing savings account that we're transferring over into an investment portfolio in the next month or so. And that is to hand out scholarship money for all of our seniors that apply in high school when they're heading off to college. Okay? Oops, sorry, one back. So just as a note so that we know, the additional asset in addition to the finances and the funds is the parsonage. We purchased it about 10 years ago now for the value up there, $489,900. I'm using a par value of about $700,000 for the parsonage because that's about what it's worth after all kind of real estate fees if we were to kind of liquidate it, okay? We also hold the mortgage to the Juravchik home, which got about $55,000 value, so I keep that as kind of an asset and a liability. It's a liability that we have, but it's an asset of funds coming in every year as it's repaid. And this is a lot of numbers that you guys probably don't really want to see specifically, but what I will summarize is that in the last 7 years, we've had interest and dividends and appreciation of our investments of about $1 million, okay? We've been very fortunate. It's been a really good run in the equity market. And as you see, there's some numbers up there that are red with parentheses, right? One of them is 2022, had a really difficult year, which will start to go to the point that I'm going to make later where we have discussions because we need to understand that this is not an insured, guaranteed money is going to grow every year. In the long term, will it? Yes. We'll probably make about 8 to 8.5% long term. But on a given year, it can be very interesting and timely about when we should withdraw funds or not withdraw funds. So that's just something to do. So you see our net activity is also on there. So we have taken, if you want to look at it from a capital balance standpoint, about $400,000 out of the endowment fund, strictly just the Merrill Lynch account in the last 7 years. So that's part of what, again, we need to discuss as we get to the end of this. Okay. Some of the formatting came up. Okay, so capital projects, I think it's supposed to say last 10 years. It just got cut off on font there. So all the items here you see have been funded from our original gift, which is in our classic endowment fund, except for the current ADA bathroom projects. That was done with our vision fund, which is no longer, there's no longer a balance. That's been exhausted through the use of that money in order to install our ADA bathrooms. But we've spent about $1.2 million, and that's basically on capital and the parsonage. And at that rate, we would not be able to maintain our funds and keep moving. So that's why this slide's up here, just to give everyone an education of what we've spent. A lot of these things are 30-year type items, and they happen to all hit at the same time. So we should be in okay shape to not need capital. You can all see what's been done around here in the last years, between the parking lot, the air conditioning, the bathrooms. There's been a lot of renovation here. It's not coming from our weekly offerings, okay? It's just to make everyone aware. This is an example of our missions. This, I would encourage you to just look at the PowerPoint by email. It's just a list of the majority of what we have given to missions outside of our church in the last 7 years. It totals about $200K on this list. There's about another $50K of others that we've given to as well. I didn't have the exact dates in between there at the moment. And this is, again, this talks to exactly what Pastor Das was speaking of we need to talk about what we'd like to give our money to and how. Okay, so I put together what I thought were 5 questions that the congregation should know about the endowment fund, okay? What's the mission statement? Who will join it? So we have a committee again, and we actively do it. What's the roles and responsibilities and the authorities of the group? And then how to balance being good financial stewards while supporting the mission statement that we have, okay? And hopefully if I've explained the investment in some simple terms and goals, but then we can go a little deeper if needed. And then what's the money intended for and what it is not intended for? And that's an open-ended question at the moment, and people have different thoughts on that, okay? So I pulled a mission statement. It was very timely. Hope sent an email this week about what is our church's mission statement, right? And it's quenching the thirsty by sharing Christ's love. I put that up there so that just you're thinking about it. And I put an example of what I thought a general mission statement would be for endowment. And this is just an example. We should come up with one as a church to provide outreach to worthy callings that spread Christ's work. That's just an example. We should come up with one, and we should have it maybe voted on or have, I thought, maybe a suggestion box. Just be interesting, solicit everyone's input. Okay, and then council maybe can decide on one, or the endowment committee can. I put this together just because it's something that I feel pretty strongly about. And again, I hope everyone else does. I hope that we can discuss this more. I think the biggest thing that we can do is focus on our really immediate area, including Clark and its immediate areas. One thing that I think should be a goal here that we need to think about bigger picture is not about the money in the endowment fund. It's how do we grow our church? It's something that is difficult in this day and age. It's difficult in general right now. That's something that I think by looking at what we can do on the endowment committee can support the growth of our church, which also supports the growth of our operating budget and it just becomes a snowball effect. Not that we don't want to support national missions, but it's one of those things that I think if we set the correct proportion of how we do that, that would be something I personally feel strongly about, and I hope we get some input about that. So I think before the meeting, before the church today, I was able to talk to Pete McDevitt for a while, and we have enough of people that have shown interest to kind of get this rolling in the right way again. I don't think that's a problem. We encourage any and all to join. I put ideal number of 5 only because I wasn't, I wanted to set a minima. There is no maxima. It would be happy. We'd love to have 7, 9, 11, whatever it is. I chose an odd number so we could break ties. That was just something in my head in case there was voting on things. And then there'll be the traditional sign-up sheet that we do for all of our committees here. Historically, this has been it's a fairly low commitment. It's once a quarter. We would meet after church. The ideas of what we do is going to be next. Okay? So this is what the roles and responsibilities are. Receive input from pastor and congregation members about worthwhile outreach, and you discuss them together. That's really what the charter's been historically. You decide as a committee, and you vet the options. And you say, hey, how does this benefit who? You ask questions. A lot of times, we've gone back to pastor, and we say, hey, pastor, what other churches is Pastor X reaching out to so that we know, is it really looking at us? Is it looking at, they've reached out to 20 churches, 30 churches. There's something that's kind of, in my opinion, it's very important because it gives you a sense of the need and the sense of how much work the recipient is putting into really wanting or needing this. It's important. Set a budget on an annual basis. And then I put this in presenting to voters, any spends that are greater than $10,000. And underneath $10,000 that are budgeted, that would be something that the committee would do on their quarterly basis or on their monthly basis if they needed to meet in order to send those funds out. And then how to balance giving versus growth and sustainability of our church funds. So financial responsibilities. How do we balance being stewards, good financial stewards and supporting the mission statement? I calculated about 7 years ago that if we allocate 2 to 3%, it's something that can keep the longevity of the fund going. It would support somewhere between $40,000 to $60,000 at our current value annually. That allows us to sustain it in perpetuity. What it doesn't take into account is the capital that's been taken for projects around here. And that's what we need to worry about in terms of sustaining the balance for perpetuity, okay? It's been used for capital improvements, and sometimes it's been looked at it as a piggy bank where we've needed it, right? We haven't reached out to look other ways. It's also been some pretty large projects that it's not something where, pastor could come up and say, hey, we're going to run for the month of October. We'd like to put in a new parking lot. It's a lot of money. It's not something that's going to come up in a month, right? We did that when we put the doors inside the church. I guess that's 10, 12 years ago. We had a door fund, right? And that partially funded that. But these were pretty large improvements that were made around here. So if we continue to do that, which I don't think we will, and I don't think we need to, it would exhaust the fund. So I just wanted to point that out to everyone. It's important to know. And also that our operating expenses. So our operating expenses, they outweigh our offerings, all right? So our programs and services that we offer at the church have to be carefully looked at for fiscal years in order to kind of continue to break even in our operating budget and not to have to dip into other funds that we have. Okay? Mm-hmm. Sure. Mm-hmm. So if you look historically, we've been very fortunate with double-digit growth in investments over the last 7 to 10 years. Over the long term, that is not a rolling average of the equity market. So, correct. Correct. Sure, sure. It is. That's the point. We've had incredible appreciation of our equity portfolio. It doesn't happen like that all the time. So that's just something to be aware of. That's why I say that. Correct. Yep. Correct. So that's a discussion here that we can have, okay? But if we make 8 to 9% on average for a year and we have a year that's down 20% and we decide we want to give 5 to 6%, now we're down 26% for that year and you can never recover from that. There is no way to recover from that asset at that point. So it's just something to be aware of. Again, this is the tussle between finances and doing worthy work. It's difficult. There's no right answer. There's no exact, it's not a definition, Dave. Sure. That is correct. That's correct. So we started with 2.2 million. We have 2.142 million. Yes. Constitution bylaws. What do you have on there?
Just so you know, it has a whole thing on it down
Okay.
nine members.
I didn't get to see that. Okay. Yeah.
You want to point that out?
Yeah. It's the bylaws that are in the endowment from whatever year Keith will be able to, it says 9 members. It's got a number of things in there. So we started with 2.2, right? We have 2.8. There's been spend over the years. It's fine. We've had appreciation, right? So.
I mean, are you worried that the market's going to tank and we should go to a stable fund?
No, we'll run out of money quicker because we're going to get no money on our money. So correct. So I'm just pointing out, this is education. This is not decision at this point. This is pure education about, right? If you tap, just an example, think of this as your 401k. It's a perfect example. It's a 401k or an IRA. And when you start making withdrawals out of it, right, you can't ever recover from that. It's no problem. It's intended for certain reasons. We just have to understand that in the back of our mind always. That's all. They do. So there's been a number of different ways. I know that's been done over the years. It just depends. I think that one I'm going to defer on because current responsibility as treasurer is Joan. in today's spending, 2.2 million in 25 years is approximately $850 to $900,000. So every 17 years, a dollar's worth 50 cents. Okay? So if we're not growing any funds, forget about this. Any funds by double every 17 years, we're not keeping up with inflation. Okay? So any excess in that of 25-year appreciation to what we have, that would be what I would say we've kind of outpaced. Okay? So that's just something. Okay? The last thing on there that is important, because it says, what do we consider a mission, and should define the money for? And I think that's what we're all talking about right now, right? That's the last question down bottom from a financial responsibility. I think there's 2 more slides only. That's it. No, that was it. So I left a big blank slate here because that's what it should be, a big blank slate. And again, this is just factual things that are up here. It's not anyone's, it's not to be meant in a positive or negative light. It's meant to be factual about what it is. And what do we do going forward? History is important to know, to not repeat any errors we made, or to compound on anything that we've done that's been very successful. That's what history's for. And new ideas for going forward and what we should do. Pete. Do we have anyone online?
Yeah, we have 2 people online.
So I had asked earlier, when Dr. Repa gave this money, I think it's in 1999, according to the plaque in the Fellowship Hall, did he have any requests of how the church should use those funds? Like, did he want his money to be used to, grow evangelism, for capital improvements, for mission work? So I don't know if anybody knows that. Keith might, and especially with what you had showed Jim. You want to take this?
Yeah, Dr. Repta was a lifelong member here, single, never married. He was anesthesiologist, and I'll just be honest, he wasn't a big giver while he was living at all, but he was a faithful person, and it was John Sadlon who was his best friend. He'd go to John Sadlon's house every Sunday for lunch. Colleen Sadlon would cook them a nice lunch and dinner, and John was his best friend, helped him with everything. It was John Sadlon that convinced Dr. Repta to remember Zion in his will. And John was a faithful member here too, fixed the boiler all the time. He was one of those silent angels here. So when Dr. Repta died, his estate was worth about $8 million. He left $2.5 million roughly to Rutgers University. If you go to a football game there, you'll see they put the credits up there for Dr. Stephen Repta, who left a legacy to Rutgers. And Overlook Hospital, he left over $2 million to. And then Zion was the 3rd big beneficiary. No stipulation that it had to be used for anything specific. But he was a faithful member here. And everybody always wanted air conditioning because it used to be super hot in the summertime. And it sweltered in here, in the summertime. So everybody really wanted the air conditioning, and I think that was a big upgrade. But nothing specific to do any specific outreach. And it was through the updating of our Constitution and bylaws that we established the endowment committee with how many members, what projects should be looked at to support. And in the past, it was historically through pastor, the endowment committee would come up with a list of recommendations, bring it to the voters, have an annual budget. And it was probably in that 3% range, as Jim had mentioned, that I recall when I was chair. And the funds would grow, be used, and we did try to always balance the regular budget with our general offerings and not reach out into the endowment to to subsidize the congregation. So.
All right.
And Joan's correct about what her statement that she just said. My concern is that we don't ever have to do that. That's why that was up there. Yeah. But if we don't have money, decisions have to be made, right? And that's why I wanted to point that out. And it's just very important for everyone to understand that. That's all, I think. There is, and it'll be reactive starting this quarter.
Are they recommending, or is there any kind of timeline where the operating budget and the ties don't match, and then cuts have to be made to missions outreach, monies for missions? Is that something that the current committee has
Not,
laid out?
no, not at all. No,
Well, yeah, I think the operating budget.
I had asked if the current committee had thought out or laid out any kind of timeline as to where the ties don't meet the operating budget and that potential cuts to missions projects would have to be made so that there's no reaching into the endowment. I guess that would.
no, well, yes and no. So Dave, like, the one thing is that those are supposed to be apples and oranges. So we're a small congregation, so you know what's going on right next to you. There's no, just imagine we had a 5,000 person congregation. People in endowment would have no idea what's going on in the operating budget, right? So you would be kind of separated such that those boundaries would never be crossed. We try to do it that way, and that's important. But I think that we would look at what are the services we offer and what do we need to do if we got to that point, okay? It's something I don't want to even discuss inside of an endowment meeting because it's really not appropriate. It would be pastor comes, treasurer, financial secretary comes and say, hey, this is an issue we have. What are our solutions to potentially rectify this, right? And we could discuss it in that manner, I think.
Okay, so I just want to help people. I don't think everyone understands the hierarchy. So it starts with committee members, and then right now, currently, Jim is the head of that committee. They report then to church council, and then church council then reports to you. So church council can't even approve how we spend the money. This body here does. So Jim and his committee aren't making any decisions for anybody. They're making recommendations. So just so people don't feel like, oh, that's not fair, this is how they decide, whatever. It's not a hierarchy. And that's just, I hope that clarifies that no one thinks, oh, one person's making.
Just as pertains to the building, my mother is with the Catholic Church in Metuchen, and they are currently looking to raise $5 million to do lots of the things that we have been graciously supported in doing here at this church. $5 million. I said, are they rebuilding the whole entire church? No, they're just attending to things. Stuff costs twice as much as it did even 5 years ago. So, keeping a prudent amount that will hopefully double over 10 years or whatever time is great. And at the same time, our calling as Christians is make disciples of all nations, and we don't know when our Lord is coming back, that we also want to be reaching out. And I like the part that you said, reaching out to our local area, there are a lot of unbelieving people. So it's a tough balance. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you for that, Gail. Oh.
So we have Ling and Ashley Rumsey are on the call as well. So Ling, she just said, I think congregation has to decide if we want to keep endowment fund or are okay with it being depleted. And so Ling, she was just saying, I think the congregation needs to make a decision if they want to keep endowment fund going or deplete it, is what she said.
Okay, thank you. Keith?
Yeah, I didn't know what the end result was going to be today, but I would recommend that you have the suggestion box where everybody, now that they're informed, can give potential recommendations for supporting various missions locally, regionally, and nationally. And then let the committee go through that and then come back to the voters, and then as well as the recommendation for the 3% in spending, so you don't deplete it all in one shot, as well. You know, putting some kind of limitation that you spend no more than 2.5% to 5% in any 1 year.
Correct. That's what I remember too. And some of that, what's weird is it kind of fell off.
Well, I don't remember then the letters coming.
The letters, things just started to fall off after COVID.
Yeah. I think that's a good point
We're
because
getting big chunk, now it's more of, we get these big chunk requests that come in, not 40 potential worthy things at this lower level of financial
Right.
commitment. We get some quite larger ones that come in for requests.
Yeah, and that, I think that's a good point of where we're talking about, the committee and being more formalized, because there has been these requests. Like I know last week, our last voters meeting, a request came up, and it seemed like it came out of the blue, but it was something that was discussed a while back, but lacking a endowment committee, there wasn't really, it wasn't a chance to discuss that to everyone, but it was something that was around. And I think...
No. Correct.
Well, yeah,
Correct.
sure. And I think this kind of allows us kind of a good segue now is, okay, what missions are out there? To Keith's point, okay, what are we looking to support? And Pastor, I think you had some, had some, it's on PowerPoint? Thank you.
I did want to share a couple of different missions. This is based off of our last conversation, our last voters meeting, when I asked all of your permission to gather some information of some missions that we can be a part of. What I do suggest is to not make a decision today. Let us go through the formal process of going through the committee, but all of you get an opportunity to discern, are these missions that we want to support, and we can revisit it in our next voters meeting together. But I did want to share a few different missions just for all of you to think about. So I do have a PowerPoint presentation. Some of these suggestions you may be familiar with, but have not received more information about. And so I just wanted to clarify that and give the most information as possible about these missions that that we know about. Okay, so the first is, if you remember, we gathered funds for helping in tornado relief efforts. This is for a congregation in St. Louis. This is a congregation that's deeply close to my heart. I was a field worker there for 3 years, and I was leading 2 after-school sites when I was there, and so we would drive vans, pick up children, and we would run. So I would be leading in 2 different sites. And so this is a ministry very close to my heart. They are also one of the few African-American Lutheran churches that we have in our synod. And so it's a predominantly African-American community, very low income, low resources. And so the church is basically the community center. Everything that happens, that functions in the community, happens through that church. And they do not have enough pastors or field workers or seminarians or just church workers in general. Even congregation members over there are exhausted by how much that is done, which is a fantastic thing. But of course, everything comes down to how it's funded. So when the tornado came through St. Louis, it primarily impacted that community, and it was just a major blow. They really needed help. And so all of us, I'm so thankful for your generosity in supporting that ministry. And I do have a letter here from the senior pastor there, Dr. Gerard Bowling. Just on a side note, he is someone who grew up in Brooklyn. He went to St. Peter's in Brooklyn. I know him really well when I was growing up with him, and he's the senior pastor there. So I just wanted to share this letter. This was in the narthex for all of you to read, but I just wanted to read it out loud to all of you. So he writes, Dear Zion Lutheran, thank you so very much for your amazing gift. We have been working very hard to push our ministry forward in a way we can continue to serve at this capacity. We are grateful that we have friends like you to help us do this. Our food pantry is up, running, and in service. We have also begun steps to mobilize our ministry and take even more food out to the streets. We love you and we thank you. Blessings, Pastor Bowling. So I asked another associate pastor there. You may have seen him, Pastor Chris Nepper. He's a classmate of mine, close friend. We've done a lot of ministry together. He's the associate pastor there. And so I asked him to put together a PowerPoint presentation for all of you to see what's actually happening at Bethlehem. And so I just wanted to give an update, so if we can go to the next slide. So the first update is with the tornado relief. And so this is a photo that was posted on our LCMS website of what was going on. That's Pastor Bowling there on the left. And they were praying. In May 2024, a devastating tornado came that affected all the families that were connected in Bethlehem. By the way, these families, majority of them were using the gym as a temporary home. And so they had sleeping bags and air mattresses set up all throughout the gym of the school. And so many of them have been given housing afterwards. And so Bethlehem became a hub for relief, distributing thousands of meals, clothing, and emergency funds while helping families rebuild both homes and hope. The recovery work became a catalyst for long-term community transformation, shifting from immediate relief to rebuilding systems that sustain families long-term. And so our contribution directly helped them not only give immediate relief, but to begin for them to vision how can we continue doing this long-term. In that community, if you ever drive by, if you're ever in St. Louis, a lot of the homes are boarded up. There's literally blocks of wood that just cover windows. That community really needed to be rebuilt. And so the church is now heavily involved, working with the local government there, local community, to make sure that we can start rebuilding homes. So the next slide is an update of what they're currently doing now. This is a photo. Pastor Chris is over there on the right. He's talking with Lutheran Relief and working with our LCMS Synod Relief, disaster relief. They're transforming neighborhoods. He writes, Bethlehem Lutheran Church anchors the Northside Urban Ministry Coalition, a network of churches and ministries working together to bring stability, education, and faith into the hearts of North St. Louis. We operate early childhood centers, after-school programs, food ministries, counseling services, and workforce training, all centered on gospel-shaped care. Our focus today, expanding across the high-quality Christian education for children who would otherwise have no opportunity to attend safe, affordable schools. And this is true. When I was there, when I was working there, as it says, I used to work for the after-school program. They did not have Bethlehem no longer had a private school. They had chartered it out to the city. After this, there were funds that came in. They were able to restart Bethlehem Lutheran School, an elementary school within their building. And this sort of took over the area. And so now they were able to get resources to bring children from different neighborhoods in that vicinity to finally get good Christian education. And that was really important to them. But that, not only that, working with, I think, from what I understand, 5 to 6 different churches in the area, they were also able to start those after-school sites in those churches and also help them begin the process of starting a Lutheran school as well. And so it's a wonderful thing that's happening now through Bethlehem. Next slide. And this is what they're currently working on now. So this is Bethlehem now, but also this is sort of the direction, the strategic plan that they're going towards. So they recently launched a $600,000 initiative to establish 3 early childhood centers and 1 new elementary school in the neighborhood most affected by poverty and underperforming schools. Each site will serve as both a school and community hub, offering wraparound services like nutrition, family counseling, and workforce development. These schools would not only teach children, but also stabilize families, create jobs, and restore hope in the community. The NUMC model leverages state subsidies and local partnerships, making every dollar a force multiplier for sustainable faith-based impact. A strategic plan that they have, and from what I understand, this is what I think the next year or so they're looking to do that. But most likely, this is going to end up being a 3-year strategic plan for them. And so, how can Zion help now? That's the next slide. Yeah, what would a partnership with Bethlehem look like? So they are inviting us to join in this expansion for supporting the $600,000 campaign. Your generosity will directly help launch 3 new early childhood centers and 1 elementary school. Together, we can ensure that faith, learning, and opportunity reach children who need it the most. Every dollar invested creates ripple effects, nurturing students, strengthening families, advancing the mission of the church in one of America's most underserved regions. And again, this is one of the poorest parts of our community, again, and if our church can contribute to that and help in those services, it can really leave an impact. So this is just a ministry that I would like for us to consider and to deliberate on, and could we partner up with them? Of course, $600,000 is their strategic plan. That is not the dollar amount they're asking from us. They're asking whatever we can give. Even a small amount would be contributed to these efforts. But they are expanding, and and praise God for the work that they're doing there. But there's still more to do. So I just wanted to share that with you. The next that I wanted to share with all of you, the next slide is, this was another, during the tornado relief, we also had collected funds to support a African missionary. He's Pastor Dixon and his wife, Christiana. And so I wanted to share this letter. This was on the Narthex, but I also wanted to just read it out to all of you, what he wrote. So he writes, "Dear Reverend Das and Zion Lutheran Church family, grace and peace to you in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. On behalf of my family, I wish to extend our heartfelt gratitude for your generous donation of $8,340 towards our ministry. Your gift is not only a blessing to us, but a powerful testimony of your commitment to advancing God's kingdom. Through your partnership, we are making a difference in Africa and even here in the U.S. Your generosity helps touch lives with the gospel, restore hope and strengthen communities, and experience the love of Christ in tangible ways. Before I read the rest, I just wanted to preface this. So Pastor Dixon, this is not related to our funds that we sent. He received it afterwards. He took a trip back to Africa, back to Tanzania and Liberia. And this was funded through the Lutheran Church. And he went there, and he went to go visit the churches that he planted. This was part of his opportunity to see how things are going and to report back to Synod of how those churches are doing. And so I will be happy to share with you photos he posted on Facebook of those churches. If you'll see the photos, you'll see those churches primarily are still in tents. They set up tents, and people are outside just with foldable chairs, sitting and having full worship services. Hundreds and thousands of people gathering together in those six churches that he went. And he went there, he preached, and he got to share with them what was going on. And in the meantime, he came back and he reported to Synod, but also he is at the seminary in St. Louis finishing up his PhD, which is also funded by Synod. And so what we were able to help with was, what I got to find out was, other than the scholarships that he was given, there was no additional income. And so he has a family, wife, and 2 children. They did not have any money. Just to even get food, they used to go to the local food pantry and just to get by. And so it was very difficult for him. And it's surprising, a missionary such as him, who has started 6 churches all over Africa, pursuing education, he didn't have anything to offer for his family in terms of funding. And so we were able to help him with that. And I remember the phone call that I had with him. He just broke down over the phone. He couldn't believe it that we were able to help him and his family in this way. And so I wanted to offer up to the congregation again if we would like to continue helping him. This is his final year of his PhD. And also, his wife was able to complete her deaconess education at the seminary. So she currently got employment at a church nearby in East St. Louis. So it's right outside of St. Louis in Illinois. But it's just a salary, no other benefits. So they do have a little bit of income coming in. This was recent, in a couple of months. But also, they're working on immigration for him so he can stay here long term after his PhD is completed. And potentially, he could be coming to the East Coast to serve at a church here in our area. So I'm not saying anywhere. It could be in New York. It could be in the D.C. area or somewhere else. Or maybe he can come back to New Jersey. I don't know. But it would be great for him to visit, and I'd love to have him come and visit and personally meet with all of you. But he could be potentially called to one of our areas in the coming year. Yep. He wants to do full-time ministry here, but it's going to be sort of a dual. He's still going to continue his missionary efforts, but he wants to be a full-time, associate pastor. It's not going to be as a sole call. And so it's going to be sort of working as an associate here, but then going back to Africa and working part-time there as well. And it depends on which district is going to be funding him. So it could be partly whichever congregation calls him would support his salary for the time he's here, and the rest of the district would pick up his salary doing missionary work overseas. It could be anyone. It could be anyone. Right now he's in St. Louis, so the Missouri district is helping out with that, along with Synod, but potentially when he's looking for a call next year, it could be any district. It could even be SCLC, I'm not sure, but.
Yeah, it's clear God has blessed him in his ministry in being a missionary for outreach and planting 6 congregations. From my perspective, it'd be a good encouragement to him to continue to open up new mission starts as well as mentor others in the mission field rather than deviate and move. Because I've seen African missionaries here in the U.S. and it's a totally different mission field versus in Africa versus Newark, New Jersey. Completely different. And so God's blessed him with a gift to do mission outreach in Africa. From my perspective, that's flourished. He should use that gift to continue to mentor others and let it flourish.
Right. I agree, and I've had a conversation with him about this, and this is part of the deliberation just process of how God is calling him in this next chapter of life. Does God want him to stay here in the United States and work towards the African immigrants that are here? There was also potential for him in the Minnesota area. In Minnesota, there was a large group of African immigrants that came in, and they were looking to start a church. There was a Sudanese ministry that started out in Minnesota, in the Minneapolis, in the Twin Cities. And so he was sort of deliberating on that as well. Is God calling him to that? Or, as Keith, like you mentioned, to go back to Africa and continue and do that mentorship there. So I think whatever decision, however God is leading him and his family, if we can be a part of that process, and again, this is just a one-time gift if we would give. The rest, we would just continue on with his journey, and he would share with us more news about that. But just something for us to sort of deliberate on and think about, do we want to continue helping this missionary? And so he finishes off with the letter sharing a verse from Philippians. He says, "Please know that we continually lift you and the entire brothers and sisters at Zion in prayer, asking the Lord to richly bless you all as you continue to serve him. We are grateful to walk alongside you in his mission. With sincere appreciation in Christ." Pastor Dixon. So I wanted to share with the next slide. So this is sort of how we can help outside, but to go off of Jim's point and some of us who share the same thought, how can we help here, right, immediately? And so first, this is, I'm sharing about Camino de Fe. This is, of course, Pastor Fanko's ministry, and I know we've helped him in the past. He came out in June, if you remember. He came to speak and share a Bible study about some of the ministry he's doing. Just an update from Pastor Fanko I wanted to share with all of you. I got to speak with him. And so some of the things he's working on now is trying to expand more on his on the food pantry efforts. So they've partnered up with a local food pantry, but they're also offering flu shot clinics, a flu shot clinic which helps with adults along with children. And what they're looking to do now is whoever comes through they're trying their best to offer a $25 gift card for ShopRite to help those families. This is to help families who have been affected, who no longer have health insurance, or just have a really difficult time getting these, annual checkups and things like that. So that's one thing that he's working on. But I wanted to focus primarily on his Hispanic ministry. The Hispanic ministry is going through a transition, and it was wonderful to hear about this. He got connected to a Spanish pastor. He is not part of Synod, but he is looking to become part of the Lutheran Church. He wants to be rostered in the LCMS. And so as he's sort of speaking with him and getting him connected with the New Jersey district, I think this is a wonderful opportunity. He's expressed that if that pastor becomes an LCMS rostered pastor, that will be game-changing for the Hispanic ministry here in the New Jersey area. And he's also asked us that could we potentially open up our doors to maybe eventually, this is down the line, probably a year or two from now, depending on how quick his colloquy process, we call this in the LCMS, it's a formal sort of interview that's done to bring pastors from other denominations to be rostered in the LCMS. So if the colloquy process happens in the next year or two, could we potentially, Zion can open up our doors to host once in a while, it doesn't have to be every month, but once in a while host a Hispanic ministry. I think this is an incredible opportunity for us, for Zion, to open up our doors for other ethnic groups, especially for Hispanic, and see how God will lead into that. I personally would like to be very involved, and I spoke with Pastor Franco and said I would like to personally be involved in that process, to speak with that pastor, and to see how God's Spirit leads. And so this is a wonderful thing. How we can help now is just the support that we are giving for this transition, for the current sort of people that he meets with, for the worship services that they have. It doesn't have to be a large amount. It could be very small, but a little bit will help sustain it until the bigger thing that God is doing is bringing in a Hispanic pastor that will be a partner with that ministry, but I could partner up with other LCMS churches, including Zion. So I'm looking forward to that. So I wanted to share this as a potential as well. The next slide. I think I have one more. Yeah. Another local ministry that I really wanted to speak upon is our Zion Food Pantry. If you noticed the big, beautiful bill, it is big, it is beautiful, but it has cut some major funds that used to go to people who were unemployed, single-parent homes, anybody who was receiving food stamps or food benefits. Their funding has been cut significantly. And because of those cuts, recently we've noticed that more and more people have been coming to receive from our food pantry. Hope can tell you a little bit more information. Probably Faith could share a little bit more about her experience. But because of these cuts, people are looking for other options to receive food. It has impacted a lot of people. You can see countless videos online on social media of how these cuts have affected lives, so many lives. And so I wanted to request from the congregation, could we possibly have a set amount that we can put aside for our food pantry to make sure it's always full as more and more people are coming to our food pantry? I just wanted to offer that to the congregation. I know many of us who are gathered here have contributed financially or have brought actual funds who have actually brought in food, physical food. We've done collections during VBS, during any other time throughout the year. I know during Advent we do a collection as well. But now there's a more desperate need. I just want to be very frank and very honest about it. People do need help, and I think it's a wonderful way. And I encourage all of you, if you ever get a chance, please stop by at the church. These are wonderful people that come to interact with them, get to know them. Hope and I try our best to continue conversations with them. But our food pantry has been an incredible blessing, but I think there is more blessings that we can give through it. So if the congregation could potentially set aside a fixed amount, and we can have that orders put in through Hope. Hope usually puts in an order through BJ's and picks it up. So we can have that fixed amount to have that picked up. Either Hope can do it, or maybe one of you can help pick up from BJ's, but have it always stocked just so people can be blessed through it. I just wanted to share that, something that we can potentially do. Yeah. Yep. So this is just locally. Another conversation that I wanted to have is something that sort of Hope and I share our sort of thoughts about is for our preschool. And we know the conversations that we've had concerning our preschool and what's being offered locally and how that's affected us financially. Personally, as a pastor, I get to see children every single day come through our doors, and they get to learn about Jesus. I got to share, right now we had Family Fun Day, and some of our members got to be a part of it. I know Pat and Karen Tudor were a part of that. It is truly a transforming experience, and I would like to, again, encourage some of our members to come through just on a regular weekday And to just see and walk through our preschool, it's an incredible ministry, even though attendance has dropped a little bit. But I, as a pastor, I do not want to see that ministry go. There's a huge potential there that we can still work with. And also, some of those kids do join for other activities that we do, especially for VBS. And these are conversations that are going to be done later on about what is the future of our preschool. But I just wanted to share with you a personal thought as a pastor of Zion, that I do not want to see this ministry to go. I think there's other avenues and ways that we can continue to support it. I have been trying my best to rebuild some of the relationship that has been hurt, some of the hurts that have been done in the past. I want to change some of the language that we use in our church. Instead of the they to we and our. It is our ministry. Whenever I introduce our church, I always say Zion Lutheran Church and Preschool. We are one family. And not everybody in family gets along. We know about that. But I think to change some of the language we use instead of they to we, I think that could be very constructive. And we can look at the preschool in a positive light and see the gift that God has given that started, I think it was 1996, the preschool started. The gift that God gave 29, 30 years ago. What does the future look like for that preschool? How can we continue that ministry? How can we still care for the children in the community? Taking some inspiration even from Bethlehem, who's working on early childhood programs and things like that, helping children in the community. So I just wanted to leave those sort of options for all of us to deliberate on and to think about. I can still continue searching for other missions that we can be a part of, but I think for now, looking at the community and for everybody else, I think this is something that we can start with. Again, to rebuild, start doing our processes again that are needed. We need to do those. Those are very important. And again, how can we joyfully give to those people? Paul says in his letters, how can we joyfully give? We need to have a joyful heart as we give, and to not let these sort of decisions that we make hinder us and to keep us separate, but to unite us and to give us joy as we serve the Big C Church, but also as we serve here at Zion. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Pastor. Oh.
So, for years, I've prayed about other programs to support locally here, too. So who would we submit those to, these proposals? Is it going to be to the committee, to the council?
I think, it would be the committee first, and then council would look at it.
Okay.
And then we would share it with the voters.
Yeah, because just as an example, Ed brought it up recently, but for years I've been praying that we support a local baseball team here and have our congregation interact with the young families in Clark on a regular basis, like a weekly basis,
right,
with prayer, food, refreshments, fellowship, and spreading the gospel to the families. And as Jim mentioned, if you're going to have more members in the church, I'll just pick on it, it's not going to come from St. Louis, it's going to come from Clark. And this is an opportunity here, right in our own community. A lot of young families, they're not coming here on Sunday morning. And with preschool, the way the preschool is mandated for every town to have their own preschool, here's a different opportunity where we can reach out to young families. And so I'm going to submit that proposal then.
I absolutely agree. I think that's a great opportunity. I have spoken with some of our confirmation students who are part of teams, and I was looking into that. And also from direction given by council, I reached out to the chancellor of our public school here in Clark. I can share that email with all of you. He has not replied back, and so I'm still waiting for Ed Grande to reach back and let me know when he's available for coffee or something. But I'm trying my best to reach out locally with our leaders and find a way that we can partner up and how we can share more Christ and the gospel. So.
Well, thank you, everyone. This has been really good. I appreciate Jim coming out and kind of discussing what the endowment committee is about and maybe one takeaway, it is not for our operating budget. It's for missions. And there's many missions out there. We just talked about a few, but that's what the committee has to do. They have to get those recommendations, that are come to them and come up as part of their budget. So I definitely appreciate everyone's time, and if we all join in the Lord's Prayer to end our meeting. Thank you.
Lord, remember us in your kingdom and teach us to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Do I need to log out, is what you're saying? So just sign out this one? All right. Okay. Yeah. And then, is this usually shut down or just put to sleep? You shut it down. All right, you're welcome. Yep.